better than that.
Yeah.
Let's clap it out, man.
Use it.
You know, we're sponsoring these.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jalen Bledsoe is the Chief Executive Business Officer of the TD Jakes Group, overseeing strategic growth across TD Jakes Enterprises, the TD Jakes Foundation, TD Jakes Real Estate Ventures, and TD Jakes Ministries. In this role, he helps drive mission-based initiatives that blend faith, business, and community development, prioritizing equitable outcomes for underrepresented and underserved communities. At age 12, he launched the Bledsoe Collective, where he now serves as chairman, managing innovation-driven investments. As managing director of Flair Partners, he has led 10 billion plus in P&L, generated 4 billion in revenue, and delivered 2 billion in efficiencies for major clients like AT&T and NBC. He also built a network of 10,000 plus of professionals to deliver targeted solutions. Jalen is chairman of the board at Wyman Center, a national youth serving organization, becoming its first alumnus to do so. His journey from teen entrepreneur to strategic executive reflects a commitment to using business innovation to create lasting societal change.
We're going to start off with a question for him to talk about the International Leadership Summit. So, Jalen, we would love to hear more about how the International Leadership Summit, which brings together business, leadership, and faith, why do you think it's so important to have conversations that integrate all three of those?
Absolutely. Well, good morning, good afternoon again. I'm Jalen Bledsoe, Chief Executive Business Officer of the Potter's House of Dallas and our CEO of our LA campus. It's a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. When I think about the intersection of faith, business, and leadership, I go back to the Bible. It's simple. If I give you some fish and loaves and say feed the masses, there is a process in which we do that. And we know we serve a God that operates in the structure and organization. And so as a leader in my capacity, I'm looking to often understand how do I take the vision that God has given our leadership team, our leaders, and translate that into the systems and processes to move our organization forward. And so this space, this opportunity to think about succession, to think about changing of the guard. What does it mean to take an organization and move from one gen to the next gen? It's not just the idea of it. It's not just God saying to do it. There's a system and a process to do it right. And so having this opportunity to lead and to speak with leaders, to communicate what that process has been for us. What does it mean to think about that? How do we get our teams engaged and structured in that capacity? That is the purpose of changing of the guard. It really is a tactical process beyond God said so, and now we must do. And this is to lead into that, in a great way with this group.
That's good.
Thank you so much. First, we have Lakeeba Wallace with Living Day by Day.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Lakeeba Wallace with Living Day by Day. How are you?
Doing good. How about yourself? It's good to see you.
I want you to talk a little bit about why is it important for business and ministry to come together?
I think it's critical when we understand first that God said and gave us the instruction to be in this space. It is now about why are we here and how are we going to do it. So God said might be the why. How do we execute that is now the function of business, of leadership, of the system and structure. And so how do I go into a space and say, yeah, God said to start this business. I can't just go out and step and it's done. I don't have God's anointing and power, but I have his call. If I can take that call and pick up the phone and put in the phone number to get us moving forward in that direction, that is what this moment's about. And so ILS has been great in 29 years of history doing just that. Taking pastors and leaders, international pastors and leaders, and helping to equip them with the system, the infrastructure, the process is to take God's call in their life and turn it into the process to get that call to become a reality.
Last question. What would you say to that leader who does not understand how to mix the two, business and ministry?
Does not understand. For that leader who doesn't know how to or what it means to intersect the two, I think one of them is look at Bishop Jakes. He has built a church that's now going to its 29th year of existence in Dallas, Texas, but has also at the same time looked at what does it mean to be in business with enterprises, which technically began before the church, or what it meant to be in the foundation, or what it meant to be in real estate. You can take what God has said to do. God does not only speak in the parable of do it in faith of the church, he also gives direction for what you should do in your life as a whole. And so it may be called to be on stage, and that may be your business and in your ministry. but you also may be called to do it in the space of a for-profit business. And if you know that that's the call, that's the faith. Now the business is the action of getting it, getting it moving. And so I don't think there's a tip on how to do it beyond just doing it and finding out your rhythm, because as you're building something great, it will require you have faith. Because if it's what God told you to do, it probably is scary. And that scary part is really where God gets involved. Because if it's easy, He probably didn't tell you to do it. When God speaks, there's a gap between our natural ability and what God has told us to do. And in that gap is a faith. And so I think that's how we intersect the two, more tangibly.
Awesome. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Angela House with the Herpreneur Magazine.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Angela House. I'm with the Herpreneur Magazine. Our demographics is Christian women in business and in ministry. I know that you've been in technology since a very young age, so you are very familiar with how that technology has evolved. What advice do you give to an older entrepreneur who is a little leery of how things are changing and evolving as they use that in their Christian business or their ministry?
So for the woman who is 25 or 50 in this space of business, number one is find every reason in your head why you should use technology and get rid of it. Why you should is what's more important. The ability for technology, artificial intelligence, to help replace the need to go spend $10,000 on a coach or a consultant because you can ask this question to a little chat bot and it give you back advice, or it give you back tips on, not tips, or it gives you back the copy for creative, or heck, it makes the press release for you. All these opportunities of what AI can do for you, or what technology can do for you, is incredible. And so I'm always looking at what's here. I mean, I know how to use it. Let me just put some random things inside of it. Let's see what comes back. And if it looks good, let's take it. Let's ask someone who knows how to use it. Let's find someone who's 10 years younger or a month younger, and they might have used it, and they can help you understand, what it means to use ChatGPT or Claude or even some of the more advanced features in Google today.
And my next question is, with the evolving technology, what advice do you give to a young entrepreneur who needs to keep their faith intact and align it with biblical knowledge to use that technology to go forward in life and evolve and help other people?
This is a really faithy answer. But I had a friend recently who was in the process of writing a book.
Okay.
And in that process of writing a book, he said that he typically writes it all out by himself, and it might take him, 6 months. And this time he was using AI to just give him ideas. And one of those moments, all the ideas were horrible. Then he went on a fast and started praying in the spirit as he was touching and typing. And what he was getting back was godly ordained, because the moment he finished it, all the responses that at one point were good went back to being bad. And so I think as you're using technology, yes, there's a natural of praying that or believing that what they made in California is going to work for you. But there's also a moment of, I also have to pray over this thing. If I'm going to touch it, let me believe that God is in it. And so the tangible is, yes, the tech is there, but we still should ask and believe that God is in the process, in systems with us. So as you go to ChatGPT, pray in the spirit, talk to God, and ask that they guide you, gives you the right words as you're moving through it.
Awesome. Good advice. Thank you so much for the interview.
Of course, thank you.
Next, we have the Combo Christian Show with Dr. Nikki Zeigler.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Love the microphone case.
Thank you. My question to you, how do you discern when it's time to move in a new direction, whether it's in business or in ministry?
For me, it's all about the moment I lose my peace. Because where God is, peace is. And so if I'm in business, if I'm in ministry, the moment that peace leaves, it's probably the space I should not be in any further. And so I believe in when peace leaves, I pivot. And I look back to God for guidance and direction where I should be going, what I should be doing.
Okay. How important is mentorship in your journey, and who has poured into you spiritually and professional? And I want 3 people.
Okay.
Got to make it fun.
So I think the first part of that question is really, what is mentorship?
Okay.
Mentorship is not that online coaching course you're paying someone to teach you how to make $1 million. Because 9 times out of 10, you're paying for it. and they have never made $100,000.
Right.
So let's understand what mentorship really is. It's someone who has done it, who's been on the walk that you're on, and they're going to help you because it gets them excited to share a moment of knowledge of what's helped them do it over the last year or 10 years or 20 years. In a moment, they can drop all the knowledge on accident over a hamburger at a restaurant nearby, right? It's not the coaching course. It really is someone who's done it, who can provide you a few moments of time and energy. Who has done it for me in this journey?
3 people.
3 people.
Yes.
So the first one is a guy by the name of Paul Hales. When I was, I guess it would have been 10 years old, I was in the early parts of my business. We were making good money. I was making $150 a week for 20 hours a week consistently. This is in middle school. And I went to the bank to get an account open. The banker told me, you know, I'm in there for 2 hours. I've always had a receding hairline. Now I'm bald. Receding hairline. Always had a facial hair. Beard was always popping in. And the bank told me to go home because I was too young after to ask for my ID at the end of the conversation. Well, Paul, who was my attorney, he said, hey, I'm going to figure out how to help you, but I just need you to sit for a moment and learn. And so every Saturday for 4 hours, I would go to his office. I would restart the queue on his printer, restart the computer. That was my IT support for him. And he would give me 4 hours of business tort and contract law instruction for a year. And so to this day, yes, I've hired attorneys, but most of my contracts that I do, I write the first draft and my attorneys revise them. Right. Well, now AI does the first draft and
Right.
the second draft.
Tell the truth now.
You know, AI has helped out tremendously. But because of that, I have now saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in my career because I can do the first draft or do the first round of revisions on an agreement that's come because that attorney poured into me at 10 years old for 4 hours every Saturday. The second one I would say is a guy by the name of Scott Schnook. In the Midwest, there's a chain called Schnook's Markets. They're, I think, probably $18 billion today in revenue. And Scott mentored me. We'd meet once a year at a place in Clayton, Missouri, and we get some calamari. That was the recurring thing. And in those meetings, he would just talk to me about life, how he did it. I would ask questions about this part of the business I'm currently in and what the challenges I'm having. He'd provide advice. And one of the most important things he said to me, and that's really rang loud in my entire life, now at 27, this is coming from being 11 or 12 years old, was you're young, do it. Because if you fall, you can get back up a lot easier than when you're 50.
Right.
Because 50 might require a cane to get back
Come
up.
on.
And so, but that's how I've ran my entire life because I'm young and I'm always going to be younger than what I will be tomorrow. And so every day, just do it. And if I fall, today it's a lot easier getting back up than tomorrow will be.
That's good.
Third, can I just say all my spiritual pastors and leaders over the last, 27 years of my forming have given me a different sound, a different perspective, a different level of understanding of what God's call for me is and what that instruction is. And so whether it's David Crank in St. Louis or Pastor Jay Roberts or Bishop or anyone else who's been in this journey with me, their call into my life has been impeccable, but also their ability to help me understand different parts of the Bible, what that meant to me in this season of life has been more than anything.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Josephine Harris with the HBCU magazine.
How you doing? I am Dr. Josephine Harris of the HBCU magazine. My question is, as a chief business officer at the Porterhouse and a successful entrepreneur, how are you bridging faith, implication, and economic empowerment in a way that HBCU students and alumni can model?
So as you mentioned, I have a lot of titles, a lot of different roles. Someday, I don't know how I do it. My team also asks me, how do I do it? But more than anything, it goes back to the why. Why am I here? Everything that I do, every title that I have goes back to someone's life being changed on the other side. I was having a conversation with one of my board members recently about just our youth programming. And we're like, yeah, how do we maximize our investment in this space to maximize the impact on youth? And we had this thought of like, well, life change doesn't have a proper efficiency ratio, right? It can't be 1,000 or 10,000 or $10. It's someone's life being changed is what matters. And so now it's about my job in this business role in ministry and in businesses. Our goal here is salvation. What are all the avenues, right, that I can ensure that someone is being saved? That means the final metric is salvation, but there's a lot of steps on the way there, and in reality, a lot of steps on the way after. And so I think to anyone who's listening to this conversation, it goes back to understanding what does it mean to get to success? What is that life change metric for you and what you're doing? And what are all the steps before that we can track success on? So for me, it's life change. The first step is, are they connected? The second step is, do I know their name? The third step is whatever that might be. And then once they are saved and I got them to know Jesus, it's not how are they growing further in the walk with God? How are they learning God's voice? And all of those steps for me are what it means to incorporate, this business thing into this ministry thing, because ministry is get them saved. The business is the process to get them there and the process that's caring for them after that fact.
Okay, thank you. My last question is, your journey from a teenager CEO to leading operations at one of the most influential ministry is inspiring. How can platforms like HBCU Magazine help amplify stories like yours to fuel leadership and legacy building across our institutions?
That's good.
Great. I'll take you back. I'm 27 now. I'll take you back to when I was 15, 16. I'm doing a lot of press. In those moments, I'd have the conversation on, it'd be easy to talk to everybody if I pulled up in the car that's great.
Yeah.
If I flew down on the plane that I really didn't own but leased or rented for the moment on the tarmac. It's the imagery that sometimes gets us excited to tell the story, less about the story itself. And so I think to any space that's platforming influencers, let's go back to what they've actually done. What are they doing and what are they saying that's true to translate into information? So going back to my point earlier around finding a mentor. We're in this age of, it's the guy or woman on Instagram who's saying, I'm going to help you make $1 million because I've done it, apparently. And their only business is selling you that book on how to make $1 million. They've never had a true business. So I think to all the platforms, it's how do we understand who's in this space, who's done it. They may not be the coolest looking or have the car on Instagram the loudest, but it's the person with the truest story. And how we platform the right stories, the authentic stories, the ones who've really done this thing that we want to amplify as impactful for our community and make sure their voices are heard.
All right, thank you for your interview. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. We have time for a few questions.
Absolutely.